I finally got the Camaro sounding right. I just installed some headers, and I did cheap out and I got the stainless power ones. But if you've seen the previous videos, you know that I did put a Corsa dual mode exhaust on this, and I actually took that off and we went back to stock. That way I can go to headers, and the reason I did that was because I just did not prefer the sound that the Corsa made. It was a deeper sound, and I'm very familiar with how the Corsa sounds on an LT4 ZL1 1LE. And it was extremely loud, sounded great, it was high pitched, I loved the way it was. But when I put it on the SS, it actually sounded too deep, and I just didn't like it. So again, I went back to factory, I went with headers, and now I've got experience with American racing headers, and those fall right into place essentially. They fit superb. And so with these ones, I went with stainless power just because I wanted to cheap out a little bit. These were only $1,000, and they're made by Stainless Works, which is a great company. So I trusted them, and fitment on this was, it was like 90% great. A couple differences in it, and I'll go over that with this. But I've also got some sound clips that I want to share with you because I know everybody loves the sound clips. So what we have are the 1 7/8" headers, again stainless power, and these are 3" down by the cats, and I prefer that because I don't want a check engine light on. And I was actually worried that even with these cats on there, they were going to throw a code. And I've got over 250 miles on this car since installing. Driven it hard, driven it light. No codes whatsoever popping up. I do have some issues with some leakage, but let's go into the installation first. Now, on the driver's side, it was pretty basic. They come in through the bottom, just like any other header. Steering shaft had to be removed, and it's not that big of a deal. Left side was super easy, get that bolted up. When we go to the right side, that one's a little bit more difficult because typical headers, like I said before, the American racing headers that I had, those went right in place. Those would just squeeze right in from the bottom. Everything was quick and easy. Not the case with the stainless power. So I had to actually pull the valve cover on the right side, had to go in through the top, and then they fit in there. So I also just want to point out, I think everybody knows about this, but when you're doing the right side headers, you need to pull the harness over to the side a little bit. I did that with a zip tie, and I also wrapped it with some little heat shielding on there just to keep the wires from getting hot because the headers are obviously hotter. Now, the other thing is trying to fit the exhaust on there was a chore getting the two together. I should have put the cats on before the headers were bolted up to the engine, but I didn't do that, so it was a little bit of a chore to get that on there. And then I had an issue with leakage. I just kept adjusting the cats on each side, and no matter what I did with the clamps, I moved the clamps probably 4 or 5 times, and unfortunately this is where they're stuck at right now. I'm going to have to go and get the front of the cats welded, I believe. That way it seals that up so I don't have any reading issues with the O2 sensors in the front, because those are the most critical. But that's about my only gripe on as far as the cats go, because the cats aren't throwing a code, and that's a huge deal to me because that's exactly what I wanted, was a system that worked and didn't throw codes. So let's go for a ride now. Cruising, this thing sounds good. With the dual exhaust or the dual mode exhaust, it'll go completely silent inside the cabin, or it'll go extremely loud. Either way, it's definitely a nice non-droney exhaust. Now it does get a little bit raspy at times and a little rattly sounding, I kind of like the high-pitched noise, so that's why I went with this. But enjoy the sound clips.